Now, this has got to be one of the most anticipated aircraft models in Scale 500 in 2025, and now Herpa has finally delivered on it, the A321NEO of KLM. But how have they done with this aircraft model? Do we find print line issues as with many other aircraft models from Herpa Wings currently? Is the model really worth €40 recommended retail price? Well, all that we will find out, and we can once again do that thanks to the FMB shop, who still have a sale going on. So if you're looking for some really good models at very reasonable prices, do check them out. And with that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review of Me. Today we'll take a closer look at an Airbus A321NEO of KLM. At the front of the box we have a cutout, so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, and on top of the box we have the KLM and SkyTeam logos. On the backside of the box, yes, we have yet another cutout. Herpa has still not learned. In 2025 we are still getting this dreadful box. It's such a bad look for what should be a premium product. Yeah, maybe Herpa will change sometime. And here she is, the Airbus A321NEO in the current standard livery of KLM. And for me it is still a bit strange to see the KLM livery on an Airbus aircraft. And sure, KLM has had Airbus aircraft in their fleet for quite some time, but narrow-bodies, that's a new thing. So for sure something I need to get used to, but it doesn't look too bad in my opinion. So let's see what Herpa has done with this very first Airbus narrowbody in the KLM colors. And we start our tour around the aircraft model with a look at the tail section, where we of course find the iconic KLM branding on the vertical stabilizer. On the fuselage, we then have the full registration code of the aircraft. We have the flag of the Netherlands, the flag of the European Union. Underneath all that, we find the company slogan, the Flying Dutchman. We do also, next to the back cabin door, find the aircraft type specification, a SkyTeam logo, and underneath all that, the Air France KLM Group logo. So quite a bit going on here, however, all related to the livery, so Herpa was kind of forced to add this. And then towards the very tail of the aircraft, we do have the detailing around the APU exhaust. On top of the fuselage we do find a set dome. This is something that Herpa is very inconsistent with when it comes to placement, size and coloring, but in this case I think they have done a pretty decent job with it. I at least can't really find anything to complain about here. So let's move on to the front of the aircraft, where we across the fuselage again find the iconic KLM branding, with the addition of course of Royal Dutch Airlines here and writing just behind that. Underneath that we then also have the name of the aircraft, something I will not try to pronounce because I do not speak Dutch, but as far as I know it does translate to swallowtail or something like that, which I do believe is a butterfly. But well, if you know more about insects, then let me know in the comment section below. Then of course we have a few static boards, although here Herpa could also have added a few more in my opinion. And then we can go to the cockpit section itself, where we do have the cockpit windows with some metallic edges and the neo black mask. The window wipers are also there, and above that we find the two last letters of the registration code. However, I don't like the look of this. I don't like the look of the cockpit nose shape, and I don't like the look with the cockpit windows. There's something off for me here. It looks odd in my opinion. Much better for me are the engine nacelles. They have been kept in all white, just as the belly of the aircraft, where we then find the silver leading edge has been printed on, just like the safety markings and the KLM branding. And I in general like the physical detailing of the NEO engines from Herpa Wings. I think that looks really brilliant, especially from the front. Very, very nice. You can see the engine fan blades. Then on the fuselage, just above the wings, we find the emergency exits have been printed on, and that leads us straight to the wings, which we should definitely also take a closer look at, starting over the top side, where we have the different flaps, slats and spoilers carved out quite nicely. We have them different shades of grey for additional detailing. We have the markings for the emergency exits printed on. Looks really lovely in my opinion. The underside of the wings have more nice physical detailing, and also the full registration code has been printed on. And of course the A321NEO has these lovely winglets, which in this case of course also feature the KLM branding. That I think Herpa has pulled off quite nicely. However, in the past they have been very inconsistent with their winglets, with the angle they have bent those in, so that's something you still should take a look at before buying these models, just to make sure that the aircraft model is to the specifications of your liking. I think in this case they have done pretty well. Then we have the landing gear. That is of course the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all the Airbus A320 family aircraft models. Main landing gear just fine, front landing gear still hideously oversized, and of course also no printed details. So once again a big fail here from Herpa Wings. When we look at the belly of the aircraft, also in 2025, Herpa continues with the hole in the fuselage for a stand. That is of course not included with this aircraft model, making it really rather pointless, but at least since we don't have any printed details here, they didn't manage to destroy anything this time around. And then last but not least, we do also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on here at the back of the aircraft, and also here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A321NEO in the current standard livery of KLM, Royal Dutch Airlines, from Herpa Wings in scale 1 to 500. And what can we say about this aircraft model? Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, many Herpa Wings models nowadays do suffer from print lines. But what about this aircraft model? I mean, it doesn't seem to be very noticeable, at least, and in fact that's the case. I mean, yes, there are print lines on this aircraft model. We see it in the blue coloring just above the dark blue cheat line. However, it is, to be fair, quite hard to make out. It's not just hard to film, but it is even when you have the model in front of you and see it with your own eyes, quite difficult to see. They are there and they shouldn't be, but it is not nearly as bad as I would have expected or have heard talked about in the community. So at least for my model, I'd say it is not perfect by all means, but it is as close as probably they can get to an acceptable print level at the moment. And by all means, I'm not here to defend Herpa's actions, because I do have issues with this aircraft model, because I mean the front landing gear is still hideously oversized and there's no excuse for this in 2025. And I have much bigger issues with the cockpit shape. The nose shape of this aircraft model is really strange. I mean, we've long seen issues with the A320 family aircraft models from Herpa Wings having weird cockpit shapes, but especially on this model, I think it looks really bad. So yeah, I have my issues with the aircraft models, but when it comes to the print itself, we have print lines, but they are almost not noticeable. So it is on a level where I personally can live with it. However, and this is, I guess, the biggest however in this video, is when Herpa thinks that this aircraft model should be sold at 40 euros, that's the recommended retail price of Herpa Wings, then I say no way, Jose, because the model is not worth 40 euros. Even if the print lines weren't there at all, it's still not worth 40 euros, especially not with such a front landing gear and such a weird A321 mold around the cockpit section. But what are your thoughts around this brand new Herpa Wings model? Let me know in the comment section below. And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like. If you're new around here, why not hit subscribe? And with that, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.